We can begin wherever you would like. How can we help?
Yeah, so I our family came from Italy. My dad did, and I heard about getting a passport. Um, Originally, I was part of the Italian American Chamber of Commerce in Michigan. I'm still a member, although I travel too much now. I haven't been to a meeting in probably 2 years, but I'm still a member.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
actually where I saw your advertisement. And I thought it was really cool. I went on your website. um, I think it was on there. It was in one of the Italian
Did you go to
magazine.
the
I
film
can't.
festival?
Maybe that's what it was. Yes, there was a
Yes,
little
film
ad in there.
festival for sure. Yep.
Yes, that's what it was. And as part of the Italian American Chamber, they send out the stuff. So that's how I saw it.
Okay, great.
And I was impressed. I'm like, I went on your website. I'm like, this looks amazing. A good process, FAQ. And I was talking with my family about what would it take, and of course, they didn't really know. So I'm interested in getting it for a couple of reasons. One, we have family in Italy, and we go there quite a bit. I was just there in August for a wedding. My goal is to go there every year. But now, number two, I travel on business a lot, and Europe is a huge area of where I have a lot of folks. I'm in software, and I'm constantly in and out of Europe. Whether it's Germany, Italy, going between Italy and Germany or Italy and the UK. And I go all over the world, India. And I just want that flexibility of having that second passport. That would be an awesome thing to do. And the third thing is, I think it's a cool thing to have to say, you have both passports. So a part of it is just it's been on my list. And so, um, and really, I think others in the family are interested in getting it, but they were kind of like, well, you be the guinea pig because you know how to dig into all this stuff and learn about it. And so we'll see. I think, based on your process, if we'd be or if I'd be eligible here. I have some of the information, but I'd probably have to go back. So that's where I think it was a good idea to record this so I can see what I can gather as needed. I thought your website was very helpful in having that little checklist of, if if you got this criteria, then we can go this way. If it's a no to this, then there's other ways, but it may be a little bit more difficult. So that's really it in a nutshell. It's just, I think, ease of traveling into Europe and around Europe. I actually have an opportunity, um, to do more work in Germany and in the whole EMEA region. So I think this is something that interested me, just in having that flexibility and going into the Euro lane versus the US. So, um, but that's really it.
Tell me about your family history. Who are your Italy-born ancestors?
Yep. So my father, well, okay, my grandmother and her husband were both born in Italy. My father, his sister, and his brother were all born in Italy as well.
Okay. Uh, yeah, and when you say your grandmother, you mean your father's mother?
Yes.
And what's your father's naturalization history? Is he a U.S. citizen? And if so, when did he become one?
Yes. He became a US citizen in, let's see, 8458, in the late 60s. I think it was 68 because he was 9, 10. Yeah, something the late 60s, let's say. And
As
the
a child.
reason, as a child, yes.
Okay. And so that was due to his grandmother becoming a U.S. citizen, and he was a minor child living with her, and so he derived citizenship from that.
I believe it was that, but it was also they didn't want to be eligible for the draft. So they were prioritizing not having dual passports or dual citizenship. So I think right away they went into it. But I'll have to get the dates. Um,
I can look this up for you.
oh, okay, great.
Let's start with your grandmother's name.
Okay, so first name is Angelina, last name Pascaretta, Pascarete. There you
And
go.
what's her maiden name?
Uh, okay, this is gonna. I think it's Pascaretta. I know that sounds
Okay.
odd.
More common than you think.
Yeah.
Do you know her year of birth? And if not, what's dad's year of birth?
My dad's year of birth was 1958.
So I'll take a stab at it. And then the US, where did they settle?
Detroit, Michigan.
Wayne County? Macomb County. Wait, what was that? Detroit. Oh, Detroit Arsenal. Okay.
Yeah, it
Wayne
should be
County.
Wayne County. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see here.
Okay.
Yep, that would be her.
Okay. Well,
December 28th. Yep, that's definitely her because same birthday as me.
okay. Well, I would say she becomes a citizen in 1988.
Okay, so maybe they were later. So they came here, and that's right. They came here in the 60s. So maybe they didn't get it right away. I'm assuming maybe that's a common thing. They come here and then it takes time. I'm not sure. But I'm assuming if she got it then,
Let's look up dad. What's dad's first name?
Antonio, Antonio. Yep, there you go.
You said 58.
1958. Yep.
Mhm.
This is really neat. I've never seen this before.
August 4th.
Yep. 8458. Yep.
He becomes a citizen, it seems to be on October 8th, 1980.
Okay. Didn't know that.
Eh, Okay.
This is so cool.
And now, is your grandfather also born in Italy?
He was born in Italy too. Yes.
Oh, okay. Let's see what his history is. First name?
Giuseppe.
Do we know
And
year of birth, or we'll take a stab at it?
yeah, probably similar to my grandmother.
Did he die in 84?
Yes.
No, possibly maybe he did not become a US citizen. Does that sound possible?
Yeah.
Let me see if I see something else on another site. Is your mother of Italian descent?
She is, yes, but she was born here, and her father and parents were born here, but their parents were born in Italy.
Okay. You said her parents were born here, but I'm sorry, her parents, but your great grandparents, her grandparents were born in Italy.
Yes,
On both sides of her family?
I believe so.
I think maybe he did not become a US citizen. It's possible. So he certainly didn't do it before the 18th birthday of your father, which would have been 76. Uh, and grandmother doesn't do it until 88. That's after the death of your grandfather. So, some things to be aware of. The laws have changed in the last 10 days. Uh,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, yes. And so you cannot seek citizenship through someone who became a foreign national. So dad is out. Grandmother is out. Grandfather is possibly in through a loophole in that new law. But we want to take a look at your mother's lineage because that might be a more fruitful path for you. So, yes. What's your year of birth?
My year of birth is 1987.
Okay. So dad was out even under the oldest of old rules back in 1992. He became a US citizen prior to your birth. He lost his Italian citizenship when he did that and did
Okay.
not have Italian citizenship to pass to you. Historically, we would not even be able to look at your paternal grandparents except for this loophole that's been created in the new law that was ratified on May 21st of 2025. They hastily drafted a law between March 28th and May 21st, and it was done by people who weren't that knowledgeable about this process. And so
Hmm.
they left a big loophole in there where the literal wording of the law says you can seek citizenship through a parent who possesses or possessed at the time of their death exclusively Italian citizenship, or a grandparent who possesses or possessed at the time of their death exclusively Italian citizenship.
Oh,
When talking about the grandparent, they make no mention of, well, what if an intermediate parent became a US citizen, lost Italian citizenship through foreign naturalization? They forgot to consider that. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, which covers the consulates here in the US, put out a memorandum since the 21st saying, please interpret the law to mean yes, only if the parent did not do something to lose their own Italian citizenship. But we suspect the Italian courts will say, you made this bed, now you're going to lay in it.
oh,
The letter of your law does not talk about this scenario. You open this door and people are going to walk through it. So it's possible you could seek citizenship through your paternal grandfather if in fact he really never did become a US citizen, which is what it appears to me. I'm finding no record. It seems like the family was doing this in a very particular court, and
yeah,
very modern 1980s records are there. He dies in 84. I would imagine we would have an even easier time finding an older record, let alone one that took place in the 80s, if he did this contemporaneously with your dad and your grandmother.
yeah.
So possibly that you might be able to walk through that loophole in Italian court. But the other thing to know about the new law is that citizenship is not available currently to people that are great grandchildren or further removed from an Italy born person. So you and any siblings for yourself are in if paternal grandfather loophole is something that we can use. Your children
Okay.
are out for the moment, but we expect that to change. I just want to research your mother's lineage first, and then we can talk about all the potential options that you have.
Okay. Yeah, and I just texted them, so hopefully they'll get back to me. But I would think if she got her citizenship in 88, I think there's a good chance he never got it and then passed away.
I would agree that I
Right.
think
I think I never asked him about him. That's interesting. Because I think, and this is exactly why I appreciate you, because everybody was like, oh yeah, it's through your father. And sure enough, this is exactly what I was worried about, the law changing. And sure enough, the last 10 days, of course. Oh, my dad just said no, he never got it.
I'm seeing the same thing your dad is suggesting is that I
Yep.
see no reason to think that your grandfather became a US citizen. We easily found the records for your dad and your grandmother,
Yep.
and
Okay. So that could be an option. Okay, good.
could
Good.
possibly go through that loophole. There's some uncertainty there, but so let's explore your maternal
Yeah.
lineage and see whether you have something that's more solidly rooted. We can start with either of your grandparents and we'll work back to your great grandparents.
Okay. Let's start with my I guess my grandmother.
Okay.
So her first name is Clara, CLA. Yep. And then Gabriel. Hopefully, there's not going to be a million popping up. And she was born. I'm terrible with dates in this.
It's your mom's year of birth.
59,
Okay.
1959. Yep.
And your mom was born, grandmother grew up in Detroit, I should say.
Yes.
Gloria and Gabriel. I'm sorry. I'm looking for a Clara Gabriel, not Gloria. Why would they send that to me? Why would they share that with us first? I wonder.
Oh, Sabat. There it is. Yeah, Sabatini is her maiden name. Gosh, you'd think I would remember this.
Okay. And is this her in Battle Creek?
I think if you scroll up, I thought I saw. There it is, Clara Ann.
Okay.
Yeah, 80. Yeah, 98. She died. Yep, this is her.
It's Amerigo, Esme, Isma, something like that. Sarti. In 1940 census. Your great grandparents, Americo and Isma, maybe Irma, Isma, are
Mhm.
both born in Italy. Your great grandfather says he's naturalized. That's that NA. Great grandmother says, I'm not, I'm an alien. Let's see if that changes by 50 at all. We'll switch over to Americo. And by 50, they're both saying they are citizens. Yes, in the 1950 census, they asked them, are you a US citizen? Yes, no. So those are yeses. If it feels like I'm moving fast, I'm going to send you all of these records after the
Oh,
call,
okay.
so don't worry.
Okay.
Okay, let's see here. Are they from the Lucca area?
That sounds right. Yeah. Is
Okay.
that
17.
yeah, that's right.
Medico
It was northern.
Sabatini. Villa Basilica, Lucca. Father Domenico. Page 13. Page 2, line 13. Has a brother named Tommaso. Okay, so he comes into the country in 1921. He's 22, single. Okay. I got both pages of them. They get married. June of 24. The Americo Sabatino, as it gets written down. Isma Sarti's father is Ferdinando. That's a marriage index, though, that we're looking at. He
Mhm.
lives until he's born 11 August 1898, dies 1975. 1898. 1930 census. Yeah. He said they both say they've got papers in for citizenship, but not yet naturalized, as the family next door indicates, or not, and not still an alien without any papers filed for citizenship, as is indicated for this neighbor. Now let's see if I switch to Isma, whether we get her naturalization record, which might tell the Teha. We get a little index card here. So she's born July 14th, 1905, becomes a citizen 7/13/1943. Why aren't we finding the same thing for America? Let's see if we can get it on the other side. Let's see, she comes in with her family. Ferdinando is going by Fred. Mother is a name I've never seen, Altamira. They are non-naturalized aliens. She's got an older brother who has papers in for citizenship, but not yet finished with that by Ferdinando Sarti becomes a citizen in 31, and she's long gone out of the house by that point. So it's not her father's naturalization that gives her US citizenship. She's an adult by that point. Okay, so where is Americo's naturalization date? Let's get back over there. Actually, before we get back over there, just want to see whether Altamira, when did she die? Oh, 31. I would say she probably doesn't become a US citizen. Not sure they're going to ask that on this record, but I'm guessing if he doesn't become one until he becomes one on 7/22/31, she dies in April of 31. I'm guessing she didn't do this before he did. So, okay. So you have a great great grandmother who never naturalizes, might become important. She seems to be Altumira Banuki or something like that. Okay, switching. I want not switching yet. I want to get back to just want to see Americo's card, and I'm surprised it's not showing up here. We'll go look on the other site. What did I say? 1898. Here we go. And sometimes the other site has trouble. These appear to be the same. 10 March 1930. I'm going to get the whole record here on this one. Okay. Americo Sabatini, Villa Basilica. He says August 27th. I had August 11th for him on some other document, 1898. Wife Isma from Pescia Castellara. Yeah, July 14th, 1905. That is what we saw. Becomes a citizen for the big reveal. Oh, No, it's not 10 March 1930. It's 19 December 1932. Okay. So in this branch of your family tree, Americo and ISMA are both out under the rule change that happened in October of 2024. Stemming from a court decision in August of 2023, the consulates adopted that decision in October of 2024. That decision says we should no longer recognize citizenship through those who naturalized while the next in line was a minor child. Your grandmother was 3 days old when Americo finished the naturalization process. So that became unavailable to you as of October 3rd, 2024. ISMA also naturalizes while she's a minor child. A case through ISMA would have to be heard in Italian court because she's female, trying to pass citizenship to a child born before 1948. There is reason to think that the courts might still recognize that path to citizenship. Not all courts follow that Supreme Court decision of 2023. Plus, the Supreme Court might be walking back its decision in part. They had a hearing on the 27th of May of this year where they were asked to reconsider that, at least as it pertains to American applicants whose intermediate ancestors are born in the US, where we confer citizenship by birth on US soil. Without getting too much into it, it seemed as though they were receptive to this reconsideration. Long story short, even if they issue an order this summer that says we're going to walk back our 2023 decision, at least in part, as it pertains to American applicants or to applicants in countries that have citizenship by birth on soil, the consulates are not going to adopt that. They are loving the new law. They want to keep applications to a bare minimum. They have the right to ignore Supreme Court decisions. Supreme Court in Italy is really not that supreme. It's an advisory. They issue advisory decisions, not mandatory decisions. But it would mean that you might have a safer path to citizenship through either of these great grandparents, Americo Sabatini or Isma Sarti, but one that takes you into Italian court. Now, keep in mind, those are your great grandparents. Currently, you cannot seek citizenship through a great grandparent. That is also likely to change later this summer. The Constitutional Court, different than Supreme Court, which is a mandatory follow our rules governing body, is set to hear on June 24th a challenge to any sort of restriction on access to citizenship generationally. And if they were to say it is unconstitutional to restrict access to recognition of citizenship by generation, then you and a whole lot of other people just had citizenship restored through a great grandparent, or in the case of your children, an even further removed ancestor. If that were to happen, and the Supreme Court were to do its thing about naturalization, I would recommend, if those two things were both to come to fruition, I would rather see you go through Americo Sabatini than test the loophole that is your paternal grandfather. That loophole is completely untested right now, as it has only existed since May 21st. And so while we attorneys think, yeah, we think the courts are going to hang the minister out to dry and say, you shouldn't have written something so hastily. You should have taken your time, and we will punish you for, or we're not going to say we're going to punish you, but they're going to say we are tasked with following the letter of the law that you wrote. And your law is written like this. So don't know about Giuseppe there. Now, I still want to look at your mother's father's lineage to see whether you have look at it like this. There are two major factors going on in determining eligibility for citizenship. How many generations removed you are, what is the naturalization history of that person? So your paternal grandfather meets for you the generational issue. That's no problem whatsoever. And he also meets the naturalization issue. It's the only reason we hesitate is because it was not intended to be that way. It was a poorly written law. And your children are currently not eligible through the generational aspect of things. Pivoting to mom's side of things, Generationally, you are excluded for the time being. If that were to change, great. And then on the naturalization side, we're going to need them to, I would love for them to reinstate eligibility through somebody like your great grandfather. If not, there is still the possibility that you could seek citizenship through your great grandmother who naturalizes, I understand, while your grandmother was a minor child. But many of the lower courts in Italy have not been following that 2023 decision all along. It is a little bit uncertain what will they do in the face of a new law from May of this year that says absolutely no naturalization is to be tolerated, to be determined. So let's look at your mother's father's parents to see if by chance we have two great grandparents who never became Italian citizens. And then if your eligibility generationally is restored, that might be your safest path of all, which is great. The Constitutional Court, which must be followed, says a great grandchild or someone even further removed can indeed seek citizenship. And if you've got great grandparents that lived and died Italian citizens and aren't a loophole, uh, then maybe that's our safest bet. So let's turn our attention there. Any questions about anything I just said so far?
No, that's very helpful. Thank you for that.
Okay, you're probably thinking, this is why they record.
I
The
knew I
lot
had a
being said
feeling this
here
was
is
going to
very
be.
hard to think like, okay, am I going to be able to repeat this for my wife and children? Or just tell them, just watch the recording. That's
Yeah, I was
so
thinking
much
I
easier.
would.
Just watch it.
Yeah, I was thinking I would write it down, but I think that was impossible. But this is exactly why we're talking because I had a feeling this was complex. I think our family thought, well, it's no big deal, hey, you just. And I'm like, I don't think that's the case. And especially going on your website and reading, I was like, I think there's a lot more to this than.
We don't even have up on the new website, so I'm not even sure. This may have changed since you were here, but under eligibility, I think you're referring to where would we find that chart? We haven't even updated the chart
Oh,
to account for the May 21st law yet. It does
yeah.
reflect what happened in October. It does not yet reflect what happened in large part because we are kind of waiting to see what goes on this summer as these two high courts might nullify very quickly what happened in May. And so where we're putting these updates are, of
Mm.
course, in our newsletters and in our calls with everyone. And then we're putting them in our newsletters go into articles. Our most recent May 23rd
Oh,
newsletter is not yet up here, but
okay.
rather than, we've been sort of hesitant to like, do we rework every one of these pages or do we just say, sit tight, let's see on Labor Day if everything is the same as it was on Memorial Day, or if we say to ourselves, thank goodness we didn't go about changing every single page on the website because now we're right back to where we were
Yeah.
before. So, okay, where were we going? We're going up here
Yep.
for your maternal grandfather.
Okay, so his name is first name is Joseph, and then last name Gabriel, Gabriel. Yep.
I'm going to say sometime around 1932, probably 5 years on either side.
I think so, yeah. And Detroit too, yep.
And in 2017, no,
Uh
maybe.
20 2007, I want to say. 7, 6, 5.
We got in there through
Joseph Albert. Let's see.
do you know his parents' names?
I don't.
Let's go back and get there another way. So you said to me, oh, but that's when I typed in Gabriel. Okay, that was but I should be able to get there this way.
Oh, that's her, right? Isn't that her? Yeah, there you
It
go.
is, but I need to get over to his side of things. And
Oh,
that we did by typing in, sorry. You said that marriage record says Sabatini, but of course that's not coming up now.
Oh, is that them there? Clara A. Yeah, because they moved to Roseville.
Okay, there we go. Joseph Albert
There you go.
Gabriel.
That's it. There you
Okay,
go. There he is.
15 September 1923. I didn't have him old enough. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, 23. Wow.
Okay, living with his own family in the 30 census. Parents are also Joseph and Pauline, born in Italy, not citizens at the time. Pauline. He's got papers in, Joseph Sr., and she says, I'm a non-naturalized alien. Let's go to the 40 and see what they say. This is page 2. They're down here at the bottom. They both say they're aliens on the 1940 census. So maybe he abandoned that process. Pick them up on the 50. I don't see any, none of those little index cards are jumping off the page. On the 50, he says citizen, yes. Go over to the other site. She says citizen, no. He says yes. She says no. We'll go to the other site in just a second for his record. Let's just see what comes. Oh, I like a nice alien file. Oh, bummer.
Oh.
Oh, okay, she does it in 56. Pauline Gabriele. 6/23, 1896. She naturalizes 11/1, 1956. Why aren't we finding something nice and clean and crisp like that? Or Giuseppe, probably Gabriele, or she's a Melone. I want to know how old he is. Joseph is 39 and 30, so 1891. Okay, I'm not going to rely on that date that they put at the top. That proved to be wrong on the last record. He becomes a citizen. Okay, this is the declaration, first document that you file in the process. Save it. Put you guys right next to each other on my screen. Do you see a family resemblance here? Not entirely, no. Maybe you look more like dad's side of things. Joseph Gabriel from Arpino in Caserta province, born May 16th, 1890. Wife is Paulina, married in Detroit in 1917. She's from Scontrone, born June 29th, 1897. Close enough. I think it's June 23rd, 1896 is what she says for herself on her own naturalization record. But close enough. June, he said June, like in the 20s, something like that.
Yeah.
And then Joseph, he gets that wrong too. I think Joseph's real date of birth is 15 September 1923, but this is pretty standard for the men to get this kind of stuff wrong. There's his, that's worth saving. He enters the country in 1910. Oops. Certificate of loyalty. This is all because they were doing it in the 40s when, now that Italians had become enemy aliens. There's the petition. The second, it's largely a repeat of what you see on the first document. It gets a little cut off there. I wonder if they give us a better version of that page, but we'll see. Petition, and then the big reveal is on the next page. Yes, he becomes a citizen on 4, I think November. Is that what that is? Of 44?
So.
4 November
That would
44.
be, yeah.
Okay. So this is a very similar posture to the other side, which is it's slightly better in the sense that this great grandmother doesn't become a US citizen until after Joseph is over 21 years of age. So if, let's say all things were to be held equal, let's say we were having this conversation before March 28th of 2025. And your father, well, forget about your father's lineage entirely. If you said, oh, it's only my mom that's of Italian descent, I would be telling you the following. Americo Sabatini naturalizes while your mother is very much a minor child, 3 days old. Same thing is true of Isma. Joseph naturalizes while we get past the 21st birthday. Both of them, both of your mother's father's parents, your grandfather was over 21 when they went through the naturalization process. So I would have been telling you, these are better great grandparents to use, one of which would have kept you at the consulates. Joseph would have been a male ancestor passing to Joseph. Your grandfather is passing to your mother, and then your mother can pass to you because you're born well after 1948. So I would have been telling you, great, let's start building this with regard to your mother's father's father, who naturalizes after the 21st birthday of your grandfather, and it keeps you out of Italian court and avoids all of that expense. Great, we're going to go into the Detroit consulate with this. It'll be no problem whatsoever. You and your children are eligible, so are your siblings, etc. Not the case. So now naturalization for the moment is not permitted at all. We have 4 great grandparents, all of which that became US citizens, plus you can't seek citizenship through a great grandparent. We do expect generational eligibility for great grandchildren and those beyond to be restored. And then what will that Supreme Court say? They already had their hearing. So we know they're going to issue some sort of order later this summer following that hearing.
Mhm.
What will it say? Will it speak to walking back their decision from 2023 as it pertains to Americans? Maybe. I think that's what one of the issues they were explicitly asked to consider. And then will they speak to where does our ruling stand in the face of a newly drafted law that says no naturalization is to be permitted? Chances are we're going to be in a situation where cases heard in the courts and cases heard in the consulates are operating under 2 different sets of law, which has been the case for years. And so let's just wait and see. You have several different options that might come to fruition by the end of the summer. You have one that we could start to build now, but I would say wait. I mean,
Wait,
your
okay.
father's father, that loophole theoretically works regardless of what the Supreme Court says about naturalization. We just need the Constitutional Court to restore eligibility for your children. But
Okay.
otherwise, we could go on that loophole and try that loophole out now. But Italian court is expensive.
Yeah.
And so I would rather you go on something that we know is going to work. And I think we're going to know much more about, could we use any of these 4 great grandparents given their naturalization histories by the end of this summer?
Sure.
So, and I suspect the Joseph Gabriele is never coming back to you as somebody that can go, you can take through the Italian consulates. That minister is never going to adopt anything that reintroduces the right of someone to seek citizenship at his consulates through an ancestor that has that lost Italian citizenship at some point in time, or that became a foreign national, I guess is a better way to put it. So I think you're talking about Italian court, no matter which way you go. What I'm going to do after this call is this. I'm going to send you two emails. One, it's not going to quite look like Anthony's. He's a little bit further down the pike than you are. It's going to look like Chuck's. It's a Google Drive folder. The recording of
Okay.
this call will be there. The records that we found together online will be there. In a separate email, I'm just going to memorialize where we're leaving off, that you have potentially, I think, four, because I guess five. I guess we could technically say they are five different potential paths to citizenship, all of which lead to the Italian courts. Let's wait and make sure the Constitutional Court restores your eligibility, your children's eligibility, and if going through one of your great grandparents, your own eligibility, and then also see what does the Supreme Court say about naturalization, which would have no impact on the consulates, but which the courts may indeed adopt and begin to follow. And in the meantime, take a look at, let's talk a little bit about the timeline and the expense of this process so that you get an idea of what am I looking
Sure.
at if I decide, if I become eligible and I feel comfortable with my chances of success, what am I looking at here? So going through Italian court is that's a pretty standard fee, separate from records compilation. We got to first build the thing, and then
Mhm.
once it's built, it goes over to my partner in Italy, Marco. You may see him here.
Ah,
There's
yes.
me. There's Marco.
Okay.
Yes. And so I'm over here in North Carolina. He's over there in Rome. He presents, we build the cases. If they're going to the consulates, we send them directly to the clients. If they're going to court, we send them to Marco in Rome. And he can represent you no matter where in Italy. The court you'll be having your case heard in will be dictated by what's the town of birth of the ancestor through whom you're seeking citizenship.
Oh,
So we could be all over the map here right now. The one branch seemed to be Lucca based. The other is way down there near Naples. So, and then I don't know where your paternal grandparents, where was your father born?
Potenza.
Okay. The further south, the better, if you ask me.
Oh,
So yeah, they like to really stick it to the anybody in Rome, any sort of minister, it's
yeah,
court, etc. So they're much more inclined to grant citizenship down there where they feel like, ooh, it's our chance to like get back
yeah,
at people. So
yeah.
okay, so Italian court is $10,000 for the first person, $1,000 for each additional person. How many children do you have?
I don't have any children.
Oh, sorry.
So,
I don't know why
yeah,
I
yeah.
keep talking about these
Nice.
children. I thought you said at the
Well,
beginning you had children.
no, I have nieces. So I have cousins, a sister. Everybody's interested in this.
Got it.
I think they all thought this was like a piece of cake. You file something. And I was like, yeah, I was the only one doing the research on it. And I'm like, let me be the guinea pig on this thing. I
Yes.
think if they hear 10 grand, they'll all walk away. For me, I'm still interested. That's about what I was expecting.
Okay. And so then on top of that, you have the documents preparation fees. So keeping in mind that, let's talk about it if it were just you. And then in the recording, we can tell them court cost is $10,000 for the first person, $1,000 for each additional person. So if you are five people, the court costs are a total of 14,000, but you divide that by five and it becomes a lot less burdensome per person.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, like, if it's my sister or my cousin, would that be too far removed?
No, if you're eligible, so is your sister. Your cousin will depend on which side of the family we're talking about.
Okay. So my sister could be eligible. Okay. Okay.
So bringing more paying adults into the process makes the grand total go up a little bit, but it
Yeah.
makes the per person come down dramatically.
Okay.
So don't tell them don't be scared of 10,000. The per
Yeah.
person is likely to be far less than that.
So if I went through this whole process, paid for it, we were successful, and then they wanted to go through it, they would be seeing a $10,000. It would all start
It'd
over,
be
right?
right back at the beginning where a new petition has to be filed, et cetera. So
Okay.
they don't want to do that. It's better to have the conversations ahead of time and say, okay,
Yeah,
what's our
yeah,
grand total? How many
yeah,
of us are paying participants? And
yeah,
then get a sense of, okay, our per person commitment to this is this.
yeah,
Are we proceeding?
yeah. So if they're cousins, the only cousins, so there's my sister who would be interested. I could see my dad saying get her involved, which I would easily do. That'd be fine. And then the cousins, unfortunately, are all on my dad's side of the family. So I think then that would rule out
We have to
all of
keep
my,
in mind whether we're going that way,
yeah, yeah,
which,
yeah,
if we get all of this good news that we're thinking out of these two courts, keep in mind dad's dad is still a E. We're asking them to stick to the letter of the law and don't be looking over here and don't be looking over there.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas the great grandparents, if these courts say these things, all we're asking them to do is follow your high courts. They've told you
yeah,
what to do. And
yeah,
so I'm not likely, if you get some good news out of these courts, I'm not likely to recommend that we go through your father's father.
yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I totally agree.
I'm more likely to say, okay, we've gotten restoration of eligibility for great grandchildren, and you have great grandparents who naturalized after the 21st birthday of your grandfather, which is what the Supreme Court said in 2023 would be permissible.
Yep.
Theoretically, it's still permissible in the courts. The lower courts are going to face a decision of, do we follow our high court or do we follow our parliament?
Yep.
I'm curious to see, what does your high court say this summer after the parliament thing? If they issue an order that says we think that whole thing is unjust or unconstitutional, lower courts can then say, okay, we
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
So let's wait and see what happens there. But okay, let's say it's just you. So you're looking at 10 grand to go to Italian court. No portion of that is due up front. We got to first compile the records. If we're going through a great grandparent, it's about 6,500. That's if you're wondering, where did she just pull that out of? Here it is,
Oh, look
great
at you.
grandparent,
Look at that.
6,500.
Wow.
It might go up or down depending on
Yeah.
a few things. Are you married? Have you ever been?
No.
Okay. How about mom? Is she a living person?
Yes, she is.
Any divorces for your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents? I don't think anybody had additional marriages or divorces, but any divorces I need to know about for your parents or your grandparents?
No.
So then it's going to come down from that 6,500. We're going to be able to take off your marriage, a divorce record, and death record for mom. That's
Oh,
400
good.
times three. That's 1,200 off the top. So now we're at 5,300 minus the cost of this call is 5,000. So
Okay.
5,000 to compile all the documentation. That's going to take us about 6 to 9 months. When that's done, it goes over to Rome. First payment is due to Marco. That's always five.
Okay.
Yes, it's five if you're proceeding alone. It is more if you are proceeding with other people because that additional 1,000 person fee comes in at the beginning. But
Got
saying
it.
it's just you, then you
Yep.
would owe him five. That's going to carry you through for the next 18 to 24 months, which is the average time it takes to get through Italian court. It can be faster depending on the court. Just looking at these, I mean, I don't love, in terms of timing, I don't love Naples, that's for sure. I love the Naples court because those two judges are just like, citizen, 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 this is
Yeah.
fun. But
Yeah.
it's a huge docket. I mean, so many people are from that region of the country that their docket is massive. So we might be instead looking at, okay, let's talk about this Luca thing. It was called Villa. What was it called? Where they were from. Oh gosh, I'm never gonna find that, but I will find it. But okay, so we might be talking about a different court depending on timeline. And then the court will issue its order. recognizing you as a citizen, at which point the remaining 5,000 is due. Marco will register your birth record in the town of birth of the ancestor through whom you're seeking citizenship, and everything shifts back to the US with that court's order and proof that your birth record has been registered in Italy. You can then register in the network of Italians living in the Detroit consulate's jurisdiction. You'll collect your passport in Detroit, etc. Should you get bad news in the Italian court, that remaining 5,000 is applied towards the appeal, and we'll cover it in its entirety. So we don't ask for the full payment up front. It encourages strong decision making and strong petition writing at the outset. Read between the lines. Marco, do the job right the first time. And so then at the end, you're getting the second portion of the payment and there's no more work to be done. But if something were to change and leaving you in something were to change in the law, well, not really the law, but like, let's say you have a judge that some of them are just nuts.
Yeah.
And we need to file an appeal, that saving that remaining 5,000 covers you so that, okay, great. We're not dead. We're going to take this up on an appeal. And it's not in addition to the 10, that second portion of the 10 is going to be applied towards the appeal. And it says, Marco, you've got more work to do.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Got it. So we can appeal it if it is rejected the first time.
Absolutely. And we
Okay.
have had to do that. We have
Okay.
one up on an appeal right now in the L'Aquila region that the judge just got it wrong, just flat out wrong. So it wasn't something that we should have done differently, or there wasn't a change midstream. It was just, you are just not understanding the two applicable legal systems, the US and Italy, that are factoring into this family history here. So
Sure.
we're, put it up on an appeal, and we expect the appeals court to say, yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
Citizenship granted.
Got it.
So that's it in a nutshell. You can see now why I try to steer people out of Italian court where possible. But what happened in May, almost nobody can go to Italian court. I'm sorry, almost nobody can go to the consulates. We're talking about modern immigrants. Modern immigrants become citizens fast.
See, yeah, this is what I was worried about. I had a bad feeling something was going to change, and that's why I got right on. And I'm like, I didn't realize that was 10 days. I didn't even hear about that. But it's funny. My dad goes, "Yeah, I heard about." He was texting me. He goes, "Yeah, I just heard about that too." And I'm like, "Well, this is why I was trying to get it in, because I'm like,
real." Well, don't beat yourself up too much. I mean,
Yeah.
The people that are, I would say, let me just think this through. So dad was never going to be someone through whom you could seek citizenship. His father only comes into the picture since May 21st. So
Okay.
keep in mind that before that, we were never going to talk about your father's father.
Yeah.
That loophole only started to exist 10 days ago or 15 days ago.
Okay.
On mom's side of things, yes, we could have begun the process of seeking citizenship through one of these great grandparents, but this is, they would be telling you, if we had gone, I would have been telling you to go through Joseph Gabriele to stay out of Italian court initially.
Yeah.
And then they would be telling you, okay, great. The new law has retroactive application to everybody that didn't have their consulate appointment by March 27th of 2025.
Oh,
There's a 2-year wait for the consulate appointments.
okay.
So
Okay.
don't beat yourself up unless you
Yeah.
booked an appointment 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You were going to get caught up in this with money on the line. So better to be watching it play out on the sideline and only making your move once the dust settles.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay. You make me feel better there. Thank you.
No problem.
No, and I appreciate all this. I mean, gosh, the thoroughness and just, I mean, you know exactly what you're doing. It's been kind of fun to watch and see. And just, I had a feeling it was going to be like this. So I feel good with you. You know exactly what's going on. So I guess now, do we just, you'll give me access to that folder, and then we'll,
and we kind of wait, and you'll start getting our newsletters, the ones that
Oh,
go
good.
up under articles, but you'll get them to your email as they come out in real time.
Okay.
And so the next one that's going to come out is it's going to speak to the loophole, and it's going to speak to derivative citizenship for spouses, which doesn't apply in your case. So ignore that part.
Okay.
There are 3 issues, and then the cost of Italian records out of Italy. Those are the three issues coming out in the next newsletter. Following that, I anticipate putting out a newsletter when the Supreme Court's decision, keeping in mind they had their hearing May 27th, when they issue their order, which will speak to naturalization, then that will merit a newsletter saying, okay, here's how that affects different types of cases. And then the Constitutional Court, which is going to hear the issue of generational restrictions on access to citizenship, has their hearing on June 24th. We are cautiously optimistic that both of these courts are going to be motivated to put out their decisions before they go on the August holiday break.
Okay, so the Supreme Court decision, when do you think that'll come through?
Like I said, sometime before the August, they all close up shop in the month of August. So
Okay, so
we're
so it's fair to
expecting
say, okay, so for us to re-engage, we're probably thinking like would you
Labor Day. Honestly, this is the
yeah,
summer of waiting
yeah,
between what we know on Memorial Day and what we will know on Labor Day are going to be two very different things.
okay, yeah,
And so we're telling most people, just wait. Just wait for more information when these courts rule to see which portions of this new law remain in place and which don't.
yeah.
And then we'll be able to make more informed decisions at the end of the summer.
Okay. And then at that point, should I just reach out to you or what's the
We
best?
are asking people if you see something in the newsletter that positively impacts your case or that you're confused about, email us because you will get to us before we get to individual
Yeah,
people.
the
That
people.
the newsletter is intended to, it will say to you, if there is something in this newsletter that you think impacts your case,
Yeah.
please email us.
And just in layman's term, like what would I want to see in that newsletter? The two decisions. Like what
You want to see that great grandchildren can seek citizenship again,
okay.
and two, that naturalization, the courts are still willing to hear cases where an ancestor naturalized.
Okay, got it. Got it. Perfect. So I'll keep an eye out for that in there. And then I'll just put a tickler in my calendar and just keep an eye out for the newsletters. But that's great, Lauren. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Let me make sure I have your preferred email address. It's going to actually just be one email because I can no longer send access to Google Drive folders to people that don't have Gmail addresses, but I can
Oh,
send the link to the Drive folder in your summarization email saying, here's where we're leaving off, and here's the link to your Drive folder.
oh,
All in
okay.
one
So it's the Google Drive. Okay. So as long as I got a Google, I can get in there.
place.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
If you have a
Great.
Gmail address that you would rather me email to you, then I'll send it as two things, a link and but I can
No,
always
let's
switch
just
things.
use this one just because yeah, make it easier. And then yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
This is
well, I
great,
think
Lauren.
we're going to be able to work together, but I think it's just still the time to wait, see what
Yeah.
happens, let
Yep.
it play out, and then we'll know what's your strongest path because all of your paths, like I said, I don't think anything that's going to happen is going to allow you to apply at the Detroit consulate. So
Okay.
you're going to Italian court. That's an expensive and time-consuming process. So be sure that you're going to get across the finish line.
Yep. And is there any sorry, one last question. Is there any like test or anything that I don't know where I heard like you got to take a test?
We were
Maybe,
considering that. It did not make it into the final law. There's no
okay.
language test, no civics test.
Okay, good. I was worried about that. I was like, yeah, that's not gonna I don't
Yes,
speak
that
any Italian, so it's very sad. It'd be motivation to learn, but
I
good.
encourage everybody to learn because there's always the looming threat. So if these guys get shot down on this generational restriction, you better believe they're coming back with language tests and civics tests. They're going to go back to that parliament and say, "Great, now we can't cut out the great grandchildren, we can't cut out the great great grandchildren. Find other ways to cut people out." So here
Yeah,
comes language test, here comes civics test. So start studying. It'll make you a more responsible and fulfilled Italian citizen,
yeah,
but also we are not out of the woods. That's
yeah,
exactly where we're going to end up when all this dust settles, is they're going to go back to that parliament and say, we want speakers and we want people that know Italian history, etc. So definitely start on the language portion of things in your spare time.
okay. And that would be part of the newsletter if that's a requirement, or you think,
Yes, we're a long ways from that. That's
yeah,
when these courts rule and start chipping away at the new law. Then
yeah,
the parliament might say, okay, we need to draft something else.
yeah,
And they've been wanting to put language tests in it forever.
okay, got it. Okay, good to know.
Okay.
Well, thank you,
So,
Lauren.
yes,
This is
you're
great.
very welcome.
Yeah, it
This
was
was
great to meet
fun.
you. Yeah, no,
Yes.
this really was. You made it fun. I mean, it's impressive to see the way you do this, but you have a very, I like your process a lot. So thank you. You made this
You.
easy for me.
I really appreciate that. I have a
Yeah.
question for you on that note. I'm just